We also, in this bill, formally reject WHO and any of these international organizations. If they want to adopt something, if a county or someone in Florida wants to adopt, they've got to get it approved by the state of Florida Department of Health.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis stepping up the Republican war on science with a new bill that ends Florida's cooperation with the World Health Organization. Here's what else Ron has in store for Floridians.
Makes all these protections permanent that we've done over the last 2 years. And so that's schools can't mandate COVID jabs, workplace can't mandate, the vax passports, none of that stuff. All that stuff must be made permanent. It also expands protections, not just for COVID shots, but any shot under emergency use authorization. If it's emergency use, how can they force you to take it, whether it's a business or whether it's a government? That is wrong, and that will not be allowed in the state of Florida.
DeSantis' move to muzzle Florida's doctors and public health officials comes as his not yet announced presidential campaign suffered its worst week since, well, last week. Polls show DeSantis in free fall among Republicans. Now he hopes that smacking around some doctors will win him back a little MAGA love.
One of the things we saw with COVID was people would rely on CDC. They'd issue flawed guidance, and they say, no, we have to force these kids to wear masks because CDC is saying that. In the state of Florida, we want to be a buffer against flawed guidance, and with the prospect of WHO and this so-called treaty, I think they're really looking to institutionalize lockdown policies, and that will not happen here. So this is a great salvo.
With Florida now kicking doctors out the door, it's fair to ask who Floridians should turn to for medical advice. And the answer turns out to be Ron DeSantis, because the bill DeSantis just signed grants him some pretty impressive powers. That includes a special power to fight discrimination in healthcare. But no, don't worry, Ron DeSantis hasn't gone woke on you. He's talking about a different kind of discrimination.
The bill also prevents discrimination against patients based on their COVID vax status. And I don't know how much this happened in Florida, but it did happen around the country where people were being denied organ transplants because they did not do the mRNA shot. How incredibly cruel is that to try to do that? And so in Florida, that's not going to be acceptable.
According to what DeSantis just said, there isn't even any evidence that a single Floridian was ever denied medical care due to being unvaccinated. In fact, one of the reasons Florida's hospitals got so jammed in the first place was because they weren't denying care to unvaccinated people. DeSantis is literally making this up as he goes. And it isn't just Ron DeSantis getting in on the anti-science bandwagon. Oh yeah, you know what time it is. It's been 2 weeks, let's do it. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Here's Greene in Congress spreading a conspiracy theory that the COVID vaccine doesn't actually protect you against COVID.
Talk about spreading misinformation. I think that it's our governing bodies and the Biden administration and many Democrats that were spreading misinformation about what these so-called vaccines, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think these are vaccines at all. A vaccine would stop the spread of a disease. A vaccine would provide immunity. But obviously, the President of the United States got four COVID-19 vaccines and still tested positive.
Now, Margie has clearly never talked to the nice doctor at the CVS about her flu vaccine, or she'd understand that not all vaccines give you total immunity. What they are meant to do is limit the severity and symptoms of an illness and keep you alive. But hey, Margie's the doctor here.
Talk about spreading misinformation.
And lucky for Congress, they had an actual doctor on hand to testify at this hearing. Here's what she had to say about Marjorie's brain pile.
Well, in this country, we have a very, very robust vaccine system that looks at all the different potential adverse effects that may be associated with vaccines. So the problem is that some of these deaths, even though they are reported, it may have been the vaccine was given, but the death was not due to the vaccine itself.
Absolutely right. And to say no, do not get the vaccine is completely irresponsible. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
For Republican Congressman Andrew Clyde, also of Georgia, the only way to make America great again is to completely defund the Centers for Disease Control and the National Institutes of Health, the world's foremost public health organizations.
Our CDC and our NIH are not telling us the truth, so we need to deal with them. Those people need to be held accountable for the statements they said in the past that have not been true, and they're doubling down on those particular statements when we know they're just lies. And so I've written a letter. I've sent it to our select committee on the coronavirus pandemic to ask them to bring these people back and hold them accountable for their statements. Because when you work for the government and you testify before Congress, you are under oath. You are required to tell the truth.
Now, as I said, Congressman Clyde is from Georgia. So is the CDC. So are the 15,000 people the CDC employs in Georgia. So setting aside the obvious public health disaster Clyde's idea would cause, he'd also become the face of unemployment in his state. Keep thinking, political genius guy. With 2 investigations into Joe Biden collapsing under the weight of their own conspiracies, Republicans are in desperate need of something new in order to avoid actually working. It seems like they've settled on hollowing out America's public health and devastating Americans in the process. COVID misinformation is still a persistent problem, especially in red states. Republicans' cynical willingness to use our public health as a political weapon is just one more reminder that whatever they might be, they aren't fit to govern. And if you enjoyed that story, how about some more? Check out this clip of even more Republicans behaving badly. And as always, leave me a like and a comment below so you can let me know what I should cover next.